Hi guys, it's been a while, and that's because life has been happening, as it does to all of us. But I'm back now, hopefully to stay, and yeah, we'll keep on pushing, we'll keep on getting it. So today, the novel I want to talk about is Supreme Magus. This is a novel by the author Legion 20. At the time of this video, it has 2,855 chapters. And yeah, the chapters are decently long. I think it's the average length of a chapter. So I do not know how many words there are but it's a standard length of chapter. So it gives you a bit to read on. You have quite a bit of material if you're just starting before you catch up. Now, it's a fantasy novel. It's magic novel. That's the one thing that comes to mind when I see Supreme Magus, or whenever I think about the book. The book is about a guy named Derek McCoy, who is he's lived a couple of, I think, 2 past lives before, which did not end very well for him. There was tragedy. And in the interest of not spoiling things for any potential readers, I wouldn't go into too much detail. But his first 2 lives didn't end up well, and it created this monster, this untrusting, this selfish, this cold-hearted character who was then transmigrated into our current world where the story takes place. And the story is about his growth and his development when he's born into a family of paupers, of like a farmer, and farmers basically, and how he grows, how he slowly grows in the kingdom. Initially he tries to not let people notice his growth, especially with his magical talent, because he has the awareness from when he's a child because of his past lives. But then, as the story unfolds, we see him taking bigger and bigger stage. We see him starting to warm up to people around him. What I like about the novel is he's the main character, but the character development is so strong for him, because you see the reasons why he is the way he is. The story is written clearly, but then you see him grow as a person. You see him grow in his relationships with both family and his romantic relationship, and his relationship with the leaders in his country, and his political relationships, and his friendships. And then you see all that, but at the same time, it's not a happy-go-lucky kind of transformation where it's like, the power of friendship or the power of family transcends everything. There is still some reservation in him, and while he's growing up trying to figure out these things, he's still sorting out his past trauma. He's still reliving his past trauma, and some of these past traumatic incidents are preventing him from growing stronger and going up in the world until he resolves them. So everything is connected in that plot sense, where his past plays a very important role, but it's not the all binding and all locking thing of his future. It's just a part. It's a big part, but it's just a part as well, which is something I love about it. I love the way the author handled the growth and the relationship. Sometimes it does get a bit corny for me, but that is, I think I take it as part of the growth, because where he wouldn't do things that he's doing now before, he's doing them now, basically. So, that's one thing for me. And then another thing I like as well is that it's not one of those stories where, the main cast lives from the beginning to the end. It is a fantasy book, and there are fights, there are battles, there are wars, and in wars, obviously, people die. So Yeah, there is tragedy, a bit of tragedy. Not as much as I would have liked, given the scale of the war and things like that. But it's reasonable in the sense that because they are protected by other powerful beings, which again, in the interest of not spoiling, I wouldn't go in too much detail of. But yeah, it's everything is it's balanced. That's what I would say. This is one of a where at times it's balanced in the sense that at times you might be reading like an arc or something and then you would be so into it, and then you have like a filler or you have like a slowing down, a breather arc, and it just comes together so well in my opinion. It's a very good web novel. The world building for the story isn't that great though. It's, at least compared to web novels that I've spoken about, even compared to a lot of the mysteries, because a lot of the mysteries is similar in the sense that it all takes place in one world. It's not like Star Odyssey where there's multiple universes, there's multiple worlds, multiple civilizations. But even within this one world, we aren't really exposed to the other parts of the world. Most of the stories in the main character's continent, which is Garland, I think. So most of the characters still, up until recently, in the last few chapters where we've just gone to another continent, it's all just been in Garland. So I think that's like a bit iffy because at some point you get tired or it gets a bit repetitive, and then like new characters are popping up, new storylines, but it's all in the same place. So there's no novelty in the environment of where things are taking place, if that makes sense. So yeah, it's not an issue. You honestly wouldn't really notice it until you've read quite a bit into it and you're like, okay, this keeps happening, this place keeps popping up, and you would like to see something new, and this is just how I feel. So you might like it, you might be, I would just prefer after, a while, we'll change the scene up a bit. So yeah, the characters, for the most part, the characters are actually characters. Most of them are fleshed out. Even a character who is conjoined to the MC literally at the hip. Again, I won't spoil things so much, solos. But yeah, the characters all have their personalities, they all have their drives, they all have their goals. And one thing I like is there was an academy arc for this book, but after the academy, when decisions are being made or when the side characters are making their decisions, they are not solely based on what is convenient for the MC, for the main character, or they are not based at all on what is convenient for the main character. You have you can have a character who makes a decision that's completely detrimental, which then puts the main character in a situation where he has to struggle between, doing what to do in the situation, because if one path leads to going against his friend and another path leads to doing what he wants, so he has to sort of make that internal compromise, which again is another good aspect of the book I like. Now, the pace of the story is actually pretty good, but with the scale of the story, it's honestly, this is on the line for me, because you have some stories where the powerful characters in the story are described as world destroying and world ending, and then the story begins with a main character of average talent or something, and then all he takes is like 2 years to get to that level of power. But this is different because the growth of the main character power-wise actually begins from birth. So it's understandable. It takes decades, but it's still not as long as even the most talented top heavy hitters in the verse, if that makes sense. So it's just on the line for me. But otherwise, the pacing in terms of what happens next, the story, what story is told next, how this connects to this, how this character is introduced. It all adds well to me, but in terms of the power growth, that is the only part I have an issue with. Attaining that level of power without, But again, even while this is happening, the author does show us the effort the main character puts, because he's literally always trying to get more powerful. That is one of his motivations, to get more powerful, so that what happened to him in his previous lives won't happen again. So it makes sense a bit, but it's one of my not issues, but yeah, you get what I mean. And then the actual power system. So the power system is a bit unique from what I've seen, not completely, but it's similar to I forget this novel with the main character named Arthur Lewin. It's similar. It's a magic system where they have magic cores, but the color of your core determines how strong you are, the rank of your core. So you've got from, I think it's red, cyan, green, blue, purple, and white cores, and then each core has 3 stages: dark, light, and bright. I think that's how it's described. So yeah, but the dividing line comes from like the violet core. I think it's violet, not purple. Yeah, the violet core. So to get there, there has to be like some sort of qualitative change. And then even though you still have like high level fodder characters, as it is in all stories, but they are treated with a bit more respect in this one, because even just getting to that level of power is an achievement. So it's not like you just see hundreds or thousands of them appearing at once. No, it doesn't work like that in the story, which is something I appreciate, that, because a lot of other novels do it. And at the same time, they have the concept of true and fake mages, where it's like a secret world that the true mages live in. They don't need to use signs or draw magic circles to cast like their spells and all this sort of things. But then they're living in a completely different world, because the true mages that don't need all these things, that can cast with their minds alone, they live longer, I think thousands of years, and they have like their council, their awakened council that judge matters. It's like 2 different worlds, and sometimes it's interesting to see how the worlds collide, because majority of the people around the main characters by right are people supposed to be on the fake side of things, the fake mages. They do not have the things the main character has until much later in the story. So sometimes it's interesting to see the way the worlds collide and how the main character handles the collision, because there are laws involved, and when some laws are broken, even the main character or his friends are not safe. So it's threading that fine line between not breaking the laws, because even at this point of the story, the main character isn't powerful enough to just ignore the law authority, which is also something I like. So yeah, that's it. It's a very balanced story, I would say. It's actually quite nice. I'm still reading it, it's still ongoing, and I love sometimes the references from Earth, which is the main character did live one of the previous 2 lives on Earth, and the character development, the power system, the fights are a lot about, the fights are well written, and characters most of the time have to use battle tactics. Oh my days. It's not just about who's more powerful, whose core is stronger, or this or this. It's not just 2D. The fight scenes are actually really good in this book as well, which is something I really enjoy, and the showcases of power are awesome as well. So yeah, should you read the book? Yeah, definitely. I would recommend this to anyone to read it. And yeah, try it out. It's a very good book. And yeah, that's it for me. Thank you guys. I'll try to be more consistent in moving forward. I think I'm back at a place where I can say, okay, I'm gonna release 1 or 2 videos every week. If you guys have any suggestions on, because I do not know anything about editing videos, this is literally all new to me, you could let me know in the comments. We could talk about the book in the comments. Like I said, like I keep saying, I'm trying to create a community for, you know, people like me, people that love this sort of novels, to come together and talk about them. So yeah, thank you guys, and I'll see you in the next one.